All right, hi guys. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
My name's Alyssa. I'm one of the news editors at the PSU Vanguard. Do you guys want to introduce yourself and tell us why you're here today?
Dave, would you like to start?
I would like to start, but you're the one going for president, though.
That's true.
My name is David Heartless, and I am running to be the ASPSU Student Body Vice President.
Cool.
My name is Nolan Bylenga. I'm running to be the student body president.
All right, great. So I know, Nolan, you've been a senator here before, correct?
I have been, that is correct.
Okay. I guess what have you accomplished in your time at ASPSU, and what do you hope to achieve in the future?
So I'll tell you what, it's back when I was here for ASPSU, it was a little bit of a different culture. There's some different things going on, but it was right when COVID struck. And what we were working on at that point was trying to get student engagement. I was working on a project particularly as like a student debate to try to get students, because this is a place that's very politically active. We figured if we could get a debate set up between students and involve, right wing, left wing, whoever, like anybody who wants to be a part of it, but have it set up carefully, because there's things that you don't want to have too much hostility in a place like this, but at the same time it would increase student engagement. So we were reaching out to local politicians and even the governor's office at one point, and the hope was to have some big representation and names there to kind of kick it off and to get folks involved for this debate that we were going to put on. And then right in the middle of setting that up is when they canceled all the school, essentially, well, at least the in-person school. They said it's all remote. We weren't able to do any of it, right? So the hope for me is to be able to bring back that kind of sentiment and to re-engage people, to build social media and other things, because ASPSU is there's been a positive shift, but I think that there's a lot more that can be done in trying to engage the student body. Most people that I know have no idea what ASPSU is, which is wild when you think about that's your student representation for the whole school, So I think there's more to be done, and we could do a good job on that.
Cool, for sure. I guess this sort of ties into my next question. So we've heard reports of low activity among senators. Could you explain the challenges of being an ASPSU and any actions you plan on changing about that role or about the sort of vibe of ASPSU?
I think a lot of it just it comes down to, like I was saying before, is student engagement and the culture and getting people engaged and caring. Because in the past, is what I remember from when I was here, is it was every single term, it seemed like there were one or two people that were like, I don't even want to be here anymore. It sucks to do ASPSU, and so they just often quit. They'd leave, and then you'd never hear from them again, and they'd be like, well, that was kind of a disaster. And there's a lot of people that I've talked to that used to be part of it who still come and tell me that ASPSU is a disaster. And I don't totally think that, right? I think there's people that are trying to do their best, but that is the perception that's given, and we've got to turn that around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So this one is for, you both can answer this however you want, but what are some of the action items for your campaign? Give us maybe like a top 5 list of action items.
One thing I would like to see is change the ASPSU rules for comes to registering students to vote.
Okay.
I think that's a huge thing, that we're a liberal arts college, but yet we don't promote people registering to vote. Because they said that we can't, there's something written into the laws here or something like that. I would love to, I'm a big fan of democracy. And I think that should be the biggest thing for everything, because that shows us being active inside the campus, showing students that we care about your voice, we want your voice to be heard, and let's help you get there.
Yeah.
And I believe that's like one of my big things I would like to do. Nolan, what do you think?
Oh, man, I'm on the same theme, but I do want to point out, because, Dave, you were on a board of trustees before, correct?
Correct.
So, and I've ran campaigns and ran for office and we've kind of done this on the bigger levels. And so when it comes to, should we pause?
I think we're...
Well, here's the deal, is what I'm saying is that we've been doing these things at a level with, professional folks outside of school and different levels. So I really think our age and experience will be able to go into those big meetings and show that we have experience and be taken a little more seriously than some of the younger folks. So they're trying to do a good job, but there's a change in perception, right? And when you walk into a room with a certain kind of attitude and a certain kind of confidence and a certain level of knowledge, it's going to make a difference to the folks around you.
Absolutely. I think he wants the microphone.
Another thing I'd really like for us to work on and try to, in collaboration with the university, is the hunger crisis on campus, the food insecurity things. Is it easier said than done? 100% it is. But it doesn't mean that we can't at least take a swing at it and see what we can get to come of it to help the student body, to help, generate more things instead of just asking fellow students to help feed fellow students. Let's see what else we got to go out there. What other things can we work on? What can we do to help this out? And to look at it in a way of I don't want us to be in a position where we're running around and just screaming at the top of our lungs trying to get something done. I want to be proactive and want to go out there and, go meet with the right people, find the numbers, find the stats, find enough information to take to somebody going, this is why we should do it, and here's our proof.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like passing around the mic.
Yeah, it's fun. Any other action items you guys have? Anything specific you want to change or anything like that?
I think a lot of it is going to be a process of being able to come back to ASPSU and really learning some of the inner workings that may have changed since the last time I was here. Because I was part of ASPSU in 2020. So it's going to be a little bit of building back, a knowledge base of the specifics and the inner workings of ASPSU again. I've got some of that. Dave's got a little bit of that. But we've got to get in there to really know the details.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about what we want, it's about what's best for a whole university.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So, Nolan, I know you're a political science major, correct?
I am. We both are.
Oh, you both are. Okay. Well, I guess could you just talk a little bit more about, it might sound obvious, but how does your major and your education sort of play into your role at ASPSU, or how do you think you can utilize those skills at ASPSU?
Well, I'll tell you what, for me is cause we're both graduate students, we're both in the graduate programs, we're both working with a lot of the professors, we got to work on our thesis, and as an undergraduate student, you're not really in the mix of the inner workings of the school. As a graduate student, you are having to communicate and connect with all the different departments. You're forced to, right, in order to succeed. So it's by being in those interconnections and having those interconnections, finding folks that have connections to internships or anything like that, you learn the system, a lot better of how the school actually works. But
I think it'll cut you off, but by all means, finish it up. You want to finish your thought?
no, let's have a thought.
Okay, our degrees in an undergraduate and graduate perspective is this. You can take classes to literally learn how Oregon politics work. As a result, that can help out the whole Portland State community because you can learn how to go lobby and go talk on behalf of the student population or the university or both. And you also learn how, I'm going to sound like Schoolhouse Rock for a second, though, but how a bill is made and how it actually affects it, but on a local level, not just a national level. And what implications that have for, the whole campus. You can learn how you can go do internships through the array of emails that we get for that, just to learn how this stuff works is astonishing.
It's constant, never ends.
I get about 2 or 3 a day internship possibilities.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very active. So I look at it as a way of our degrees do that for us because we're seeing what else is out there. When people think political science, they think what the news they see on TV. It is so much more in depth than that. That's just like the very, very tip of the iceberg. And then you start seeing more emails. All of a sudden, that big iceberg is not even bigger. And there's so much more to it. But like I said, here you have the classes and the experience you can get. You take these classes to learn how to go and work with the university, or for university, or in some cases against it. Let's just be honest here. Sometimes you got to advocate for yourself, and people don't like that. So
I'll add, because you were talking about I was talking about the inner workings of the school and whatnot, being a graduate student. But like you were saying, that political science in particular is like learning political science and learning, how to use academic research to start solving problems as well. And I think that's another thing that we could bring to the table is being able to do things in that academic way to actually come up with a hardcore solution.
Absolutely, for sure. So how do you guys plan to engage with the student body on a regular basis if you were elected?
With the student body, see, that's a big thing that I've been thinking about, and I think that comes around first from social media outreach. We have social media. It's one of the greatest tools that are in our generation, and ASPSU isn't really utilizing it. If you go on their YouTube channel right now, I think they posted one video in the past couple years, and it didn't get very many views, And, it's good they put out a video and they started taking those steps, but you've got to be consistent with it. And if we can grow a YouTube platform, a TikTok platform, Twitter, all those different things, then you have a place where students can directly follow ASPSU. It starts showing up in their feed. They can see the things that are coming up instead of kind of just hoping that people read their emails. Most people don't read their emails, so it's a lot harder to get a hold of them that way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I would argue that while they may not read it, the email's not used enough through ASPSU. I think I get one, maybe two a quarter.
Really? Yeah.
And not very many at all. So like to say that students don't read it, are we giving the opportunity for our colleagues to read what we're saying? Mm-hmm. But also posting more things that like you don't see. At least I don't see a lot of posts about when does Senate meet or when does the student body meet. Those should be posted all around campus so students have a chance to go and express what they to their elected officials.
Exactly, everywhere.
Everywhere. Like stuff should be posted all over campus. Say what you want, but we all read the signs. We're walking down the halls. Even if we just glance at it, we're going to look at it. And so I think just presenting our colleagues with the opportunity to be engaged. All we can do is show them everything that we have. We can't get them to go show up, but we can just tell them when, where, how, why to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think that just being a lot more present and showing it there and showing our colleagues that we're doing this because we care about your well-being as a student, not to look good on our resume.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think the thing that to come back and add, because Dave's helping, he's pulling along this conversation but when you look at, tabling and events and how I brought up how before we were trying to do that debate, right, is if we can get some big events that are engaging people where people start caring about it, maybe annually, and people start showing up, they know there's going to be big names there. If we can start working with the outer community as well, that's going to help bring students in that care about those things to engage. Maybe we go off in other directions, and talk about, history or art or different aspects where people have interests as well. But with political science and politics and ASPSU, there's a very special niche to where we can get people engaged with what we're doing in particular. There's a lot of people that care about politics here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, with how sort of politically sort of divisive things are right now, you're talking about doing a debate, but do you sort of think that maybe that would even further the divide? Like people would just kind of come and start fighting with each other? Like, do you think that would be productive?
So when we were setting this up before, we had very specific rules. We were making with moderators and certain things. Everybody that was going to be part of the debates was going to be briefed on the rules and the specifics of the ways things were going to be handled. There's going to be rules in the audience as well, to try to have some level of control over, people that might find problems with things that are said, And we also wanted to get away from some of the extreme things as well. So that's part of going to very particular people and having kind of interviewing people for being able to be part of the debates, right? But it's to engage people. But that's an old idea. It might be brought back and kind of reimagined a little bit as well with the new ASPSU, trying to work on it and figuring out new ways we could do it. Because you can't just copy and paste. You got to look at what's the issues today and how can we apply that in a realistic way. But, going off from that is I do think that as long as we're cautious and we're emphasizing stuff like compassion and discussion and debate rather than hate. That's where we're going to win. And I've ran, campaigns in the past as well, and I'm running a campaign right now. But I ran for state representative in 2020 after I graduated with my undergrad. And I was in the heart of Eastern Oregon. It's a very red district. I personally, vote blue. But being in that district, there's a lot of people that I know and love that I think are very decent people. But it would be going up to these, houses that may have a flag of an opposition party on their house, be able to discuss with them and being like, hey, here's the reasons why, this is a good idea and that's a good idea. And more often than I think most people would believe, folks would, turn their head and be like, I understand where you're coming from. I might consider that. And as long as you're coming from a place of trying to, have a reasonable discussion and educate folks, then anything's possible. You can get folks to come together and have a good debate, for example.
For sure, absolutely. So I know earlier, David, you mentioned food insecurity being a huge issue on campus, which that definitely is true from what I've found. You talked a little bit about that earlier, but what sort of things do you think the school and ASPSU specifically could do better to combat food insecurity? And both of you can answer that.
Have open forums about it. Let students come down and talk about it. Let the people in the suits see what's going on. Mm-hmm. They're so far detached, they think doing this will help this. Mm-hmm. And I know one thing. If I know anything about what I've learned when it comes to studying politics, is that stories sell. And I don't mean that it is someone's going to come lie about it, but it's hard to ignore something when you have a face behind it.
Absolutely.
And I would have open forums. There's so many people say about so many things about this, but there's never action behind it. You can have open forums. You can send an email out to ask people about their food insecurity situation. And if something that hits somebody close to home, chances are they're going to either attend or reply to email or do both. Mm-hmm. And when you can get these type of stories, who knows what you can do. You can talk to the university, you can go talk to the provost, you can go down to Salem, you can go talk to your member of Congress down there. There's so many different things that can happen just by having an open forum to come down and express to us and your peers and our peers and the university, and also have them come down and let's have a topic, a conversation about what can we do to fix this. Not create more positions that pay 6-7 figures a year, but actual viable solutions that's going to directly help the students, not just look good on paper.
Absolutely. I guess going off of that, what do you think are the biggest issues on campus right now? And what ideas or plans do you have to maybe fix those issues?
Ooh. Biggest issue on campus is communication.
Really?
I don't hear about a lot of things that are going on. I don't hear there's sites you can go to it. You can navigate through your My PSU, but it's they're expecting us to put the work in, but then they want us to turn around and get upset when people don't show up. You can't just have it there and then, you can't just have somebody can grab, you just have to have the key. You had the key. You didn't tell me how to get it. And so, that's exactly going through your, My PSU to find things. Or I believe one big issue is communication, and there's a disconnect somewhere. I understand there's a new president on campus and that there's a new transition period, and the first year of any administration is really just crazy, upside down, inside out. Who knows what's going to happen? But I believe that there needs to be more just interactions from everybody. It seems like each side of this university is so mad at the other one that they're just staying in their own little spot. They're not willing to go across over and say, hey, let's find a solution, because that benefits all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Going off of that with the communication and that idea from before of having forums and things like that, because when you're campaigning, traditionally while you're campaigning, that's where the time you're taking to go and find some of those problems. And that's, what we're doing at the moment is trying to go talk to folks and campaign and whatnot and see what people are having issue with. And that's part of what comes with, even in, congressional campaigns or federal campaigns, as you're campaigning for, US representative or something like that, you'll go around and talk to folks, and people will tell you, well, what are some of the biggest issues while you're campaigning? And you'll say, it might be housing or, climate change or education or things like that. But a lot of the time that comes with the actual process of the campaigning itself. And we're definitely going through the motions, but those ideas of while we're actually in office, of having a forum and being able to communicate to people and whatnot, then they can tell us what their needs are. And I remember back in the day that there was something like that was going on, where they would send emails with some like polls to kind of see what was going on with folks. And I think we should bring that back. We should bring that back and have a direct line from students to tell us what their needs are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we have ideas, but it's all about representing the students. Lots of other people are saying that we want to do this, we want to do that. We want to tackle cost of housing, we want to tackle this, we want to tackle that. But there's only so much that we can do. But if there's a lot more of us and doing what the students are looking to get accomplished, agendas are a lot more likely.
Absolutely. And I know you guys have said communication on campus is a really big problem. I mean, what specifically do you think you could do to improve communication on campus? I know you talked about the forums, and you both talked about increasing social media. Do you think that would help with communication? Or?
I think that would, and we also have a radio station right down the hall. But it's not utilized at all.
That with ASPSU.
Not with the Washington students in general. And so that's a huge missing opportunity right there. It gives everybody opportunity, and maybe as ASPSU we can sit down at the radio station and try to get them into the halls all around campus. There's so many buildings, and maybe that's the way we can get more communication out. When in my undergrad at my old school, I worked at that radio station. My last year there my goal was to make sure that I got you all the information that I could. I read you the daily calendar of events going on campus on the news show, every day, 5 days a week. I brought people to listen to hear issues that you were concerned about, and I think that just getting the word out there, social media is great and all, but unless we find a way to get on the algorithm, it's a little more difficult. If you hear a radio station going through the halls all through campus every day, all day, you're more likely to hear stuff. You're more likely to understand what's going on. You're more likely to be engaged, and I think the radio station I have here is a very underutilized tool for everybody on campus.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, exactly. I think that with the radio station, back when I was an undergrad, I started a little bit of a talk show, radio show, and they teach you everything you need to know to be able to do a radio show. So for us to be able to, in some way, partner with them and have another line of communication, I think that'd be great. I do want to say, though, when you look at the Instagram for ASPSU, I think that's a good starting model that we have. The Instagram seems to be the one that I see is the most consistent, and if we can bring that consistency to the other platforms and find specifically where the students are on social media, so that might include, another poll, is seeing what are people actually using, and then going to those platforms and trying to bring that level of consistency to those platforms.
All right. Great. All right. So, Nolan, I know you said earlier that you ran a campaign to be a state representative in Oregon, but you also said that you were an intern for Senator Merkley. I guess, how are you planning to use the skills that you gained during those experiences and use them at ASPSU?
So the skills from those experiences, I'll tell you what, they're some of the best experiences I've had. But I think the biggest thing from that 2020 run for state representative was just learning how to communicate with people and learning how to, find what people's needs are, learning how to have reasonable discussion with folks that might not agree with everything that I have to say. And then it was also organizational skill as well. We'd put on events, and during that portion of time, I learned how to bring, hundreds and hundreds of people together for an event and put on an event, working with all the local groups. We put on, back when they had the George Floyd protests, we put on a march in Pendleton. And like I said, it's in the heart of Eastern Oregon, so it's a red area. And we had to do things by the book. we had to get a parade permit so that we could legally close off the roads, and it was deemed legally as a parade. We got a park permit so we could basically, rent out a park. We had to work with, we even worked with local police, on this issue, and they worked with us to create a safety plan just to make sure that nobody got hurt, and we wanted to give people a space to be able to talk and have, give their point of view and whatnot in that march that we had. We had first like an actual event where we had speakers and guest speakers, and we ended up having statements from everyone from US Senator Merkley and to the chief of police gave a statement essentially saying, look, like the way that you folks did things, we love that, and if you continue to do things in that way, then we're 100% on board with trying to make some of those changes. And from that 2020 campaign, part of doing things in those processes is how you bring the other side over to you, and that's how you start to actually make the change. And then from working for Senator Merkley as an intern, that was, you end up in meetings with all kinds of, big names and cool people, and you learn a lot. You learn a lot of organizational skill and kind of just how to run that kind of proficient system. Because the way Senator Merkley has things set up is it's efficient. Like things are going well in it. And so I could bring that back to the table and get things running smoothly, just like he does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now, Dave, you said you were a DJ, and I'm just wondering, and you said in the statement that you gave us that you got a lot of social skills from that job. I mean, how do you think that experience would help in your vice presidential role?
I could talk in front of a whole student body because I was a DJ. I learned how to communicate and reach a far wide audience. Mm-hmm. I won awards for being a DJ. I got nominated for national awards for being a DJ. And the skill you get as a DJ, because the part about it is, I'm in a room by myself. I don't know who I'm talking to. You have to find a way to how can you keep people engaged with you for no longer than 3 minutes, but you have no reaction back because you're by yourself. So that's the part that I learned. Those skills is I have an ability, I've crafted the ability to be engaging with people. And if he needs you to go do something because he's taking care of another thing, you can know that the student body of Portland State University will be represented properly through me and through being in communication with people and talking and engaging with people. Because, like I said, I learned real quickly, what can I say and to see if that's going to work or not. And that's feedback that I got through social media. People like, I can't really believe you said that. That was hilarious. Oh, maybe we're onto something. And I kind of just learned how to work with that there. And all people, if you say one thing, you can gauge a whole room. You can kind of just base it off of that. And that's what I learned being a DJ, is how to read a room without the room being there. Really, at the end of the day. So.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about your experience, I know you were a member of the Board of Trustees at, I believe it was Central Washington University. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Could you talk more about that experience and how you can use those skills at
Those
ASPSU?
skills, I can bring all those skills to this position. I know how to meet with the president's office. I know how to interact with ASPSU or the Portland State University student body. I know how to interact with the provost. I was on the higher ed committee. I was on the student engagement committee while I was on the board of trustees. My two roles were, how can I get students engaged and how can I make sure students succeed. Those are both the skills I can bring as a vice president to this position. Is I understand that while this is a different school and it's not the school I was at 100%, I'm fully aware of that. The mission is the same, is to make sure that students who are on campus, who are my colleagues, are successful. And I learned how to craft that skill while I was on the board of trustees, because I can go in front of the board and explain to them that while I am one of you, I'm also here to represent all of them too. And I had no problem saying things in front of the board or to a provost going, you're off on this one. And I don't think you're seated from our point of view. And I have no problem being that voice of saying, No, you're not correct. And I think that's the biggest one I bring. Like I'll say it again. I'm not here to be a resident. I'm not here to try to look cool. I'm a non-traditional student for a position because this is something that I am passionate about, is helping students succeed. And I believe that in this position, me and Nolan can craft a thing going forward when we leave that students years after us will continue to be successful because of stuff that we were able to put in place here at PSU.
Awesome.
100%.